Today we have Alex Blakeborough from AB Finance Limited, bridging and development finance specialist. So Alex, thanks for coming on today. Really appreciate your time. Big world of property out there, and you can help people in various different ways. So we'll obviously touch on that. Like I say, thanks for coming on, and just give a bit of an overview over yourself, please.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me on here, Dan. Obviously, we've been in contact for a little while now. A bit about me. For those that don't know, I'm obviously Alex Blakeborough. I run and own AB Finance, specialists in particular in development finance and bridging. And also we bring sort of private equity to the table as well for those sort of seasoned developers who maybe are looking for, in theory, up to 100% funding, perhaps. We can look at for those seasoned developers. Excuse me, I will turn my phone on silence now. Apologies about that. So I'm also a property investor in Leeds. We've got a small portfolio of HMOs, but which run themselves. We keep them at sort of a high end level for student lets. Those look after themselves. As I say, one of the key things that we sort of implement is to keep them at a really high standard and set ourselves apart from the rest, from our competition. Hopefully the same as we do with our service and our knowledge in the property finance industry, particularly, as I say, developments and conversions. So that'll be sort of your HMO conversions, new builds, commercial conversions, any buy, refurb, refinances, and flips is a lot of the stuff that we do. And also we do have key partners for the refinance as well. So any kind of property finance is where we operate. So that's in a nutshell. Probably waffled on a little bit, but that's what we do.
Yeah, but it's a fantastic overview, and it gives the listeners a good understanding of what it is you can offer. So if someone's listening out there and they have a commercial to resi conversion or flip, or they're doing a new build development, I think it's really key that you've covered all that. And one thing I pick up on a lot is it's always interesting to know as well, like there's many people out there who work in the property industry but don't invest or anything themselves, which there's no issues with that. But I also think that the fact that you invest yourself, you understand the market, you understand the importance of lending, obviously. Yeah. being a broker yourself, so you can sort of be on the same level as many investors that you deal with on a day-to-day.
I mean, I've got a refinance going through currently with Kent Reliance on one of my HMOs, so walk the walk and talk the talk, if you like. So we know what investors are going through, and as I say, we specialise pretty much solely on finance for investors. We don't do any non-regulated business as such, but that's property finance really for investors.
What's the current market looking like at the minute for yourself? So there's so many sort of areas you cover, but would you say,
well, the housing market generally is really quite it's bonkers, and it can be fairly tough, obviously, to find deals, particularly doing what I'm doing in the current market. It's not simple for investors and developers to find really deals with decent margins in and that stack up the way that prices have increased. Materials are obviously increasing as well, and there's a bit of a shortage of labour as well. So generally, costs are going up. Prices are going up. I mean, the flip side of that, obviously, is that people that have done their developments, during COVID and perhaps just after, and selling their properties after it, even though COVID is still going on in the background, and making some decent profits. But as I say, getting those deals to stack up can be fairly tough at the moment. There are deals out there, particularly sort of direct to vendor campaigns, and as I say, there's always deals to be had, and you might have to get creative in the ways that you're refurbing and that kind of thing. But there's still deals to be had, and there's still decent margins to be made. Just perhaps trickier to find perhaps some of the less experienced investors have driven sort of in the past, over the past few months, driven those prices, particularly auctions, up and eroded some of the margins that are available in those deals. But as I say, stay patient. I think there will be eventually some form of leveling out in the market generally. And as I say, in adversity, there's always opportunity available. So commercial conversions is a really big area. As I say, maybe there's a lot of people looking for them, and perhaps greedy vendors are able to be greedy with the way the market is, which again is eroding some of them some margins, but with material costs and labour shortages as well, we're increasing the build cost as well. But as I say, stay patient, and there are deals to be had regardless.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like we sourced one yesterday actually as a buy, refurbish, refinance, but it's been the first one in a while. So we've been focusing on other strategies, and for my listeners, they'll know that I've been working with overseas clients and doing other sort of strategies. But yeah, we managed to source one yesterday, and because it was a good opportunity, the interest was crazy. Because people are struggling to get good opportunities.
They get snapped up like that.
So they get snapped, and it did, which is obviously good for us. But
yeah.
So I just want to talk on bridging finance first. So, you've got bridging development. So, my understanding of bridging is, you put 25% down, like you would on a mortgage, and then a lender provides you, or they essentially bridge the gap for the purchase price. And this is essentially, I use inverted commas here, a cash purchase, because you're able to fund the property purchase a lot quicker than actually going through a conventional mortgage. Exactly. So I guess it can speed up the purchase and make your offer more attractive. But just for the listeners, like for those who haven't learned or used bridging, what are the benefits of using bridging finance in property?
Well, obviously, you've got to be a bit careful, I'd say, first of all, in saying it is a cash purchase, because everything in property is about relationships, and you don't necessarily want to damage those relationships with agents by saying, this is a cash purchase when it's a bridge. I would say that it's a bridging purchase because you don't want it. It will generally come to light that it is a bridging loan as opposed to cash purchase through legals, etc., and the time that it takes, that kind of thing. So I'd say that trying to build relationships with your agents is really a crucial thing. So I would be honest from the start, and FCA broker, I've got to put across that honesty's best, and always be honest with lenders and everyone that is involved. Generally, things come out in the wash. It's quite a rigorous process, and so do be honest. So just moving on to that, I've gone off slight tangent, but do be honest, as I say. Bridging. So bridging is generally, it's going to be used where the property isn't mortgageable, for example. So if you're looking at a refurbishment where perhaps you don't have a kitchen or bathroom, that kind of thing. And generally, if you're doing a refurbishment, you should be using bridging anyway. So it's a short-term form of finance. So if your situation demands a short-term form of finance where you aren't pulling in rental income, then you're going to be needing to use a bridge. So even if it is mortgageable and you're looking to do a refurb and then refinance to sort of recycle your cash. So that's what the aim is. If you buy refurbing and refinancing, is to recycle as much cash as possible and keep them to grow your portfolio quickly. If you just basically purchasing on a buy-to-let mortgage, for example, then that deposit is immediately absorbed into the property. So with a bridge, you can purchase the property, refurb it, and then refinance it onto a term mortgage, pull some of that cash out and go again, basically. As I say, whilst you're refurbing, the property won't be bringing in any rental income, which means that you won't be able to, generally, the affordability won't be there to pay the mortgage, and again, be very honest with your lenders. Generally, if you disclose that you're doing a refurbishment, then they won't be happy to lend. So for that reason, if you do get a buy-to-let mortgage and refurbish, you're going to be in breach of your terms and conditions. So anything that that any refurb you're doing is generally going to be a bridge, refurb, and then refinance. The beauty of bridging is that there are it's a great tool basically for recycling your cash. And the beauty of the bridging is that there's no early repayment charges either. So the key would be to get in and out of the bridge as quickly as possible. And yeah, obviously generally the interest will be deducted day one for the term, perhaps 12 months if just to give yourself a safety blanket. So yeah, as I say, give yourself a safety blanket there, and let so you've got enough time basically, and your balance will be readjusted basically to reduce basically at the end before. So if you take out a bridge for 12 months and you exit it within 6 months, then you only pay the interest for 6 months. So as I say, key is to get in and out as quickly as possible. I've gone on for a fairly long time there on just on buy, refurb, refinance. So yeah, hopefully that gives you a little bit of an insight into that.
Yeah, definitely. And I think with bridging as well, let's say, for example, you have £100,000 and the property is 100 grand. You could obviously buy one property using that. But if you use bridging, and obviously you're building all of the interest and the payments and the costs into your criteria, into your offer, sorry. As long as the number stacks, you can technically buy 4 properties because you can use the 100K split 4 ways and then bridge the rest, can't you? So what it does, it can help accelerate your investment career because you're leveraging other finance as opposed to using all of your one in every single deal.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's tough to recycle nowadays, to pull out all the cash that you're putting into a deal. But I mean, I've had a deal recently where I think the client has left maybe 3 or 4 grand in the deal. So, but getting a buy-to-let property up and running there with just 3 or 4 grand, really, it's a great tool, and all property investors, seasoned investors, are using bridging, whether it's for conversions, buy, refurb, refinance, or other uses might be to pull some quick cash out of a property as well, if you're looking at refurbing another property, that kind of stuff. And even for other business things, like I had a client who had some high solicitors fees for a business lawsuit that he had, and needed to pull the cash out from really quickly for that, and he pulled that out of a property and used bridging for that. So there's all sorts of different uses.
Yeah, it's quite. I didn't know you could use it for that. So obviously, touch wood, hope I don't get any high costing lawsuits. But yeah, but no, it's interesting to know that it can be used in various different ways. It's quite common in auctions as well, isn't it, bridging? It's quite common.
Yeah, exactly. So it's generally with bridging, it's going to be much quicker than your term mortgages. So yeah, for an auction purchase, particularly if it's the traditional auction where you've got 28 days to purchase from the hammer coming down, you're going to be needing to use bridging there as well, because you just won't get a term mortgage over the line in time, basically. Yeah, brilliant.
And whilst we're on the subject of bridging as well, are you able to talk us through, just for listeners out there, sort of, and I know it's deal dependent and everything's looked at individually, but what are the sort of costs involved with taking out a bridging loan? Obviously, you've got broker fee, and you've got entry, exit fees maybe on some of them, and monthly costs. Just so people can, if they're listening and they're looking at bridging, they can build a little proposal around it and just build it in. I know it's best to come to the quote and get a full illustration.
You'll have various fees with bridging. I mean, it's not cheap from a lending point of view, but I mean, is it expensive compared to not doing a deal at all? You know what I mean? Obviously, if there's profit to be made and you don't have the cash and you're looking at conversions, that kind of thing, then the only way to do these kind of deals is using bridging. People have a bad impression that you have really high penalties if you go over term, that kind of thing, and whatnot. But I think the key is communication. I'm just going off a slight tangent again, but the key is communication throughout the process. Communicate with your lender, and most of the lenders that I use don't have severe penalties for going over term. That's not to say you want to run over term, because the main thing is to get in and out as quickly as possible, and perhaps that gives you a bit of a nudge up the behind to try and crack on as much as possible if they do have severe penalties. But certain lenders will have higher penalties than others, but majority of the lenders I use don't have that severe sanctions for running over term. So that's just another another sort of thing that I mentioned. What was the question again there?
It's just about sort of costs involved. So obviously,
what
percentages?
The penalty costs. So in terms of your upfront costs, you're going to have generally a broker fee. So just recently, actually, I've changed my structure. So I charge £399 on application. I then will add a broker fee of the same amount to the loan, so that's on completion as well. Minimum, so that's a minimum of £399. It might go up to maybe half a percent broker fee, depending on how sort of in depth, how complex the deal is, how much my time it takes, that kind of thing. So that's my broker fee, £399 plus question mark on completion. So not a massive fee at all across the market, just to point that out. So some brokers will charge up to £999 on application, or even 1% or 0.5%. So that's the broker fee. That'll be the first fee that you pay on application. So assuming then the application will be initially underwritten. I mean, at this point where we go to application, we'll have an AIP or heads of terms, and there shouldn't be any reason why the initial underwrite is thrown out unless, so it will be credit back though. They'll have a quick look at it. And then we go on to valuation. So valuation fees are generally fairly high in bridging. Reason for that is that you've got sort of a three-pronged valuation. So you've got the valuation of the current value of the property. You then have a monitoring surveyor, asset manager, QS, whatever you want to call them, depending on the complexity of the deal. They will want to see a schedule of works, what you're planning on doing to the property, and make sure that all your costings tally up with what they expect them to cost. We'll then have a GDV, so done up value. So those are the three sort of aspects of the valuation. So obviously that's going to take longer than just what's that property worth, currently. So going to be more expensive valuation. Presuming that the valuation comes back all hunky-dory and what we're expecting, we'll then have to pay lenders' legals, unfortunately, as well. So again, legals can be fairly complex with bridging, and we also expect them to be done quickly. Anything where we're expecting to be expediting, then that's going to be more expensive as well, unfortunately. So you might have a valuation of between perhaps 500 to, depending on the deal size, up to sort of £3,000, some of them, and even higher. Might have a QS fee, as I say, as well, or an asset manager fee. We'll then have legal fees again, can range from sort of 800 right the way up to for larger projects, X grant, X amount of thousand. So those are going to be your fees that you have to pay up front. You then will have, generally on bridging, a 2% arrangement fee. You may have an admin fee from certain lenders, and you may have a title insurance fee, these kind of fees as well. So fees will be quite high, but again, your broker should sort of discuss all that with you and sort of lay out all the fees prior to you entering into the agreement. As I say, there may be penalty fees for running over terms, and there may be an exit fee depending on which lender we use, and especially if it's heavier refurbs or development finance, generally there might be an exit fee of perhaps 1%, maybe higher. Rate wise, you're going to be looking anywhere. Sort of market leading rates are going to be 0.55% at 70% loan to value. We can get lower loan to values. We may get below, below 50% loan to value. We might be able to get below 0.5% per month, but market leading is 0.65%, and that's going to be for 75%, and that's going to be on a straight bridge without any refurb funding as well, all the way up to, I'd say, probably the maximum that my lender is going to be charging is probably 1.15, something like that. So in that window per month, that's sort of 75%, loan to value. And if you're looking at getting refurbishment funded as well, then there's not even touched on that yet, but there are options obviously to get your refurbishment funded as well as part of the bridge. That's a whole different kettle of fish, basically. Your refurbishment bridges, we can talk about that in a little while if you think.
Well, yeah, you're sort of leading me on, because I was going to bring up the fact that, development finance, refurbishment finance, there's loads of things that can help out with an investor. So I'll be honest, when I first started, I didn't know about the refurbishment finance. So for people who want everything funded, or I say everything, most, within reason, the refurbishment and the rest of the purchase, there's things, you've got bridge to let, there's that product as well. Whether they still do it or not, I don't know. It's not something I've used, but there are a lot of products out there. So I was going to lead on to development finance and refurbishment and how that differs from bridging.
Yeah. Okay. So, as you say, there is the option of refurbishment bridging as well. So the way that works is that you might get slightly less loan to value. Some lenders will go up to 75% loan to value day one. But the main thing is that, generally you'll be looking at 70, the refurbishment lending will work off the GDV. So up to a real maximum, excuse me, of 75% of GDV. But different lenders are different. Some will work off 70%, others will work off 75%, and work backwards. But they won't go above 75% of the value day one, basically, either. And that's for your more experienced developers, perhaps, and on slightly higher loan sizes. Some lenders will roll the interest on top without going into that too much. Other lenders will retain the interest and deduct it day one. So depending on how much capital you've got, we can look at both options. So the way that the refurbishment tranches will work is that a lot of people think, oh, I'm getting refurbishment finance. That means that they'll give me all the money to do the refurb up front. That's not the case. You get, as I say, you may get 70 or 75% of the current value day one, as long as that fits in the parameters of the loan to GDV. And then you will have to have some funds, make this clear, to get the works started. So you will have to, as I say, probably need at least 20 grand to start your refurb off. And once you've spent that 20,000, the way that the refurb finance is done basically is that an asset manager, or depending on how in depth and how complex the deal is, a QS may come out and vet what you've done basically, and then make sure that check your receipts, check that you've spent the money how you said you were going to spend the money, check everything looks okay, and make sure that you, as I say, you're doing everything as you said originally. So once the asset manager or QS has come out and checked everything, they'll then revert back to the lender, and then they'll give you a drawdown of what you've spent basically. So say it's 20k, the lender will then give you that 20k. You then can spend that 20k on your next lot of your next sort of refurb requirements. So misconception generally is that you get that refurb money up front. You will have to have funds to start the refurb off regardless. So yeah, they don't just give you a lump sum up front for you to bugger off to Australia or traveling or something like that. It's very much witnessed and observed by the lender, and they generally want to have some form of control over the of the refurbishment. There's two different types of lenders. Some lenders will do it in accordance with your costings. So as long as everything's going according to plan, they'll and you're spending the money as you were initially set out, then they will basically they'll do it in accordance with costings. Some other lenders, got to be careful, and just make sure your broker is aware of this. So other lenders will need to see an increase in the value of the site, basically. So they'll only release further funds when that site is increased in value. So basically, if you can imagine, some of the heavier refurbs will go backwards before they go forwards in terms of value. So always make sure. Generally, I tend to, use refurbishment lenders who are going to be using an asset manager and monitoring your costs and doing it that way, as opposed to simply you having to increase the value of the site and then having another valuation and then coming out and then only releasing, because people generally a lot of people can run out of cash if they do it that way. So yeah, I mean, I could talk all day, as you know, on these subjects, because it's something that I specialise in.
Yeah, and I guess, like you say, there's so many different lenders, there's so much criteria, and it's not to say that everything's exactly the same. It's all going to be looked at case by case, isn't it? So you're going to be looking at, one deal which is completely different to another deal. There's going to be different criteria, different requirements, different sort of costings.
Exactly, yeah. It's very, very bespoke is bridging, and you've got to, know what your client requires and also know how lenders work. So there's no sourcing system with bridging development stuff. You've just got to know the lenders inside out from speaking to them, which is why really you need a specialist bridger or development finance broker, who's speaking to the lenders every day. You can't have sort of a jack of all trades, really, if you're wanting to get the solution that's right for you.
Yeah, so you say you specialise in bridging and development. Like, how did you get into bridging and development finance?
How did I get into it? Well, basically, we're off for too long about this. So after, how far back do I go? So after I split up with my long-term girlfriend about 9 years ago now, I worked with her father, who had a property business and also an egg business, believe it or not, running a chicken farm, running a buying and selling eggs company. So I was very much sort of left in the lurches when we split up, because I couldn't continue working there, as to what I did next. And we had already started investing in HMOs, and had a bit of a property background, and I sort of do something to do with property, and got chatting to actually out in Leeds city centre, got talking to some brokers, some property finance brokers, and we had stuff in common. And long story short, I got offered a job with those guys after a few drinks, basically, and it didn't necessarily work out where I was, because it was all commission based. I didn't get a basic salary, and I didn't know what I was doing, and there was no one really to usher me and sort of help me and give me a helping hand. So it didn't work out there, but I had a bit of a direction. I went to another brokerage, which was totally different, sort of in the office half 8 till half 5 every day, very long days. Well, not as long as we work nowadays, running our own businesses. We never bloody stop. But very much very sort of regimented in the office, as I say, half 8 to half 5 every day. Learned quite a lot there. Eventually, I just thought, bollocks to this, if you like. My dad had unfortunately passed away as well, so I had a ready-made office in my mum's house. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to give this a go by myself, and gradually sort of went more down bridging and development finance, and sort of set my stall out to specialise in those areas. And now we've got a really in-depth sort of knowledge and of all the lenders, and really sort of specialised in that area, and enjoy. I've got a passion for what I do, really. So that's long story short how I got into it, and how we progressed.
So how long have you been set up, or how long has AB Finance?
AB Finance has been set up for 6 years, I believe now. So as I say, there's been a lot of perhaps didn't grow it as quickly as I wanted at first, with you know, was having other commitments with property and various other things, having to learn the ropes and learn all about the lender base and how everything works, basically. So perhaps didn't feel, you know, had to do my apprenticeship, if you like, really learn the ropes. You can't be advising really if you don't know what you're advising about. Do you know what I mean? So
yeah, completely agree. And you know, it's never easy setting up your business and starting. You need to
exactly.
gain that
It was a
traction
completely
as well.
new thing to me, running my own business and running, you know, sailing my own ship. So yeah, it's taken a little while, but we've got there in the end.
Yeah. So is it just yourself at AB Finance, or do you have other brokers and do you have other people?
So we're looking at taking on someone currently to bring the refinance to the table. I do have sort of a PA that I use and someone that I use for admin as well. But again, we're looking at expanding. So I suppose worth mentioning, we are expanding, so open to speak to anyone that might be interested in coming on board, particularly in the local area.
Being Leeds.
Yeah.
Well, perfect. So there's a potential job opportunity for listeners. So you know, I'll put that in the show notes. It might get some more listens.
Yeah, exactly.
Fantastic. So what's your, well, you sort of touched on it then, I guess, like your focus going forward. So you're recruiting, you're expanding.
Yeah, exactly.
Obviously that's in your business, but what about your property aspect? Are you sticking with HMOs? Are you doing anything different?
I'm going to stick with HMOs. I mean, eventually I may look to do some joint ventures with clients, that kind of thing. Perhaps going to get myself onto development courses as well, for two reasons. You know, build relationships with the other clients on there, and also you can never learn enough in property. You know, I'm sure you'll agree with that. Every day is a school day, and in business as well. You know, we've all got to have that opinion. I believe if you think you know everything, you're going nowhere. You've got to keep evolving and keep pushing and keep striving forward and learning every day. So perhaps getting into conversions, developments, perhaps with some clients in the future. But for now, my focus is really getting all the systems and the right men on the ground in the office with AB Finance, and also bringing the equity, the private equity to development finance to larger developments, and perhaps get some seasoned developers interested and help them out with the senior debt and with the equity, and you know, just keep increasing those connections, perhaps from a selfish point of view for me personally in the future, and for my clients, obviously, which is the main thing.
Yeah, I totally agree. So you've got a lot going on then. There's a lot in the pipeline, and you know, I'm sure it will come to fruition as well. You know, I see you're active. I see you working with a lot of clients. So you've got a good reputation in the industry as well. So you know, there's no issues. I'm sure there's no issues with that happening. So I wish you all the best of luck anyway with your recruitment. I know how hard it is. We're trying to recruit an apprentice at the minute. So if anyone wants an apprenticeship role for a lettings and management company in Hull, then you know, hit me up. But
it's not easy, and you know, it's a reflection of your company, isn't it, as well? You know, we're going to be out there face to face and dealing with clients, and there's great opportunities in property, as you know, Daniel. You know, and whatever avenue you choose to go down, it's a great industry to be involved in, and there's some fantastic people that you can learn from and mix with. You know, get out there and get learning and get that and your entrepreneurial boots on, if you like, and crack on.
Definitely. You've touched on it already. You mentioned that you do some development courses and things like that. And one thing that is, you know, I think is important, and I've mentioned it before, when I first got into property, the whole mindset thing, personal development, I thought it was all this cliched bullshit that, you know, but the more I've sort of immersed myself in property, whether I've just been brainwashed or not, I wouldn't say I have been, but you know, mindset and personal development is huge, because like you say, you can never know enough. And, you know, just from doing one buy, refurbish, refinance, you obviously learn from that you take into the next one. So that's obviously actively learning. But there's other ways where you could go to, let's say, a classroom
You've got to be careful as well, I think, with who, there's a lot of people out there offering courses. You can spend a hell of a lot of money, and there's a lot of free advice. You've got to be careful which advice you take. So it's, there are quite a few people with perhaps limited experience who market themselves as experts and mentors and this kind of thing. So just keep your your wits about you, and just be a little bit careful who you take on. It's tough. I mean, when I was looking for a mentor myself, it's tough to know who to go to, and you've got to have a bit of nous and a bit of a gut instinct on who knows the stuff, who doesn't. It can be tough sometimes.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's all sorts of free advice out there, but generally, if it's in groups, that kind of thing, people will get called out if it's not genuine advice, that kind of stuff. So there's what's opinion, what's fact as well. You know what I mean? There's a lot of grey areas, but just keep learning, keep speaking to people, and try and be choosy with who you take advice from, I suppose.
Yeah, it's about doing your research, doing your due diligence, and making sure that the person you are wanting to mentor you is doing what they say they're doing, and they're doing stuff that you want to be doing, because there's no point in you learning about something that doesn't align with your values or your strategy. So, exactly. I want to go more into developments. We're doing a commercial to residential conversion at the minute. Our permitted development was just granted. Now we're at the point where,
on that, mate. Glad to hear that.
Yeah, thank you. But we're at the point now, like all of the consultants, no one sat me down before and said, as soon as your PD's granted, you need a acoustician, you need this, M&E. If I knew all this, I would have had it already lined up, waiting for this PD date. Do you know what I mean? And exactly. There's little things. I'm not perfect. I'm learning every day as I go along, and I think that's the sort of the good thing in property as well. You're always learning, and you're
exactly. If you can learn something new every day and just increase by your productivity or your knowledge, or just a couple of little things every day, then how much have you changed and improved over the year? Just keep pushing those barriers.
Yeah, exactly. So I suppose this ties in really well for the next question. We're talking about personal development, growth. What, for those starting out in business or property, it could be property business, let's say, what sort of advice or tips would you have for them?
For someone just starting out?
Yeah. So if someone literally listening to this thinking, do you know what, I want to get into property, or I want to start a business, what advice would you have for them?
Yeah. First of all, I think we've covered most of it, really. Try just the way I did it pretty much was throw myself in head first, and learn on your feet. But as I say, don't be afraid to make mistakes. If I look back at the way I was marketing AB Finance at the start, and the way it's evolved and it's still evolving, it's amazing. And you just learn from your mistakes, forget the mistake and learn the lesson, which is sometimes harder to do. All these kind of, phrases and memes that you see, you can take a lot out of all this positive thinking and, and throwing yourself in and going out of your comfort zone and all that kind of stuff. It really is. It's amazing what you can achieve when you step outside your comfort zone. Me, personally, years ago, imagining myself coming on a podcast, even I'd shat myself. You know what I mean? And it's just amazing how you get used to doing things and keeping pushing yourselves. I'm looking again, just to drop that in there. I'm looking at doing speaking gigs at events in the near future. So if anyone listening is running their own networking event, something like that, I'd be like to come and speak with regards to development finance bridging, and it builds credibility. Obviously, as well, if you know what you're talking about and you can stand up and talk about it in front of people. Obviously, it's going to put you in a pedestal, but in a really good place for your business. And don't be afraid to ask questions. Just learn. The more success is basically the people that have got up more times than those that every time you fail, basically. So success is getting up every time, keep getting back up every time you fail. Everyone fails, just bounce back from it, and you learn more in failure than you ever do in success as well. There's a load of different sort of quotes there that you can sort of take on board. Whether you think you can, or you think you can't, you're correct. That's another one, Henry Ford. Positive mindset, keep learning every day. Go out of your comfort zone, all these kind of things. Throw yourself in at the deep end, and you'll be amazed what you can achieve. Yeah,
I think when like you've probably covered every single quote that I've seen on Instagram in the last 2 years. But
I'm very prolific across social media, so I put up a few of those quotes, and even just following, motivational quote sites just gives you a feel good thing, and wake up and with a positive mindset, smile and get cracking,
And don't watch the news.
I don't watch the news, to be honest with you. My mother always says to me, you should watch the news. What do I get out of it? Although we empathise massively with what's going on in the Ukraine. I mean, it's people might think it's ignorant, but it's.
So if you want a positive mindset, you need to be, like you say, looking at positive things, being surrounded by positive people, and surround yourself with people who are trying to achieve the same. Like I found that when I went into, I call it the property world, because I think as a community, everyone is, or I say everyone, most people tend to be, forthcoming with advice. They're sort of
everyone shares.
Open arms, sharing, exactly. And I just think that when you go into that world, people do tend to be more open, and you sort of, say, get a feel good vibe. But when you start immersing yourself, you're speaking with people, you learn stuff just from conversations as well.
Yeah, I get on well with other brokers as well. There's plenty of business to go around, and some brokers, you'll try and speak to them and they look at you like you're a piece of shit because you're competition. But I don't have that attitude. I speak to other brokers, certain brokers who I know. If I'm speaking to a client at an event, they'll come and sort of force me out of the way, that kind of thing, believe it or not. And it just makes them look like a bit of a tosser, to be honest. But hopefully people can see through that. But, there's plenty, just get out there and network. And I hope everyone, that's another quote, I hope everyone achieves, we're not in this to compete against each other, we're here to help each other. So that mindset, always keep helping people, you never know when it's going to come back around.
Exactly, it's the law of reciprocity, isn't it? If you never
Is that what it's called? I didn't know that. Yeah.
It's like, for example, I suppose law of reciprocity is essentially good karma. If you're
reciprocating, obviously, yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So, but you never sort of give to receive. But that one good deed you may do one day for somebody, they may remember that in 5 years' time, and then it breeds an opportunity, doesn't it? So
exactly, yeah. Never know when it's going to come back around.
Yeah.
If you're in here, you're in here for the long haul as well. Try and do what you can for people. Yeah.
Exactly. So Alex, was coming to the end a bit now. We've covered a lot in this podcast, so we could go on for hours. In development.
I know
finance.
we could. Even before this, we were chatting, weren't we? We said, you could have had that on the podcast. We can talk about business and property finance, and we're not even really touched on development finance, have we? But
well, maybe we'll book in another one, and we'll have a development finance.
Yeah,
special.
Fine, mate. Yeah, whenever. Always happy to educate, and hopefully someone will have learnt some stuff, and where I am if you'd like to. Sorry, excuse me. That's the computer ringing, so I can't turn that off, unfortunately.
No worries. Just mute your mic quick, and I'll speak.
Yeah. There we go. Sorry.
It's off now anyway, but I'll delete that bit out. With regards to people finding you, where can people find you? Obviously, I see you all over Facebook. So Alex Blakeborough on Facebook. What about Instagram, LinkedIn?
Yeah, so I'm all over basically. LinkedIn, I've got about 26,000 followers, I believe now. So LinkedIn, Alex Blakeborough. I think I'm Alex Blakeborough, development, finance, and bridging expert, something like that. So you'll be able to find me. Instagram, I'm Alex_. _Blakeborough_finance, I believe. Just let me double check that.
I'll put it in the show notes anyway, but just if you are on
and
there.
on Facebook, Alex Blakeborough and AB Finance, and I'm looking at perhaps doing another Instagram just with the company as well. So feel free to connect. Well, probably I'm constantly sort of trying to delete people off my Facebook because I'm constantly at 5,000, but I don't like deleting people. So perhaps give me a follow on Facebook if you like. My profiles are open to following as well as connecting. So feel free to do that. My email just had changed. alex@ab-finance.co.uk. So that was alex.blakeborough@ab-finance. You can get me on either. Mobile number, you can probably whack it in the notes.
Yeah, I'll put some information in the show notes. I'll put it all in so someone can get in touch if they obviously need your service. And I'm sure there's many people that will going forward. So listen, Alex, fantastic. Thanks very much for your time today. Hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have.
Yeah, great, mate. Really good to talk again. And hopefully people will have learned something today. It's all about educating and sharing and helping. And another thing, I'm available limited options sort of at weekends and evenings. So if you're working 9 till 5, we can probably book something in. Especially currently being single with no kids or anything, so I'm just smashing it out. Yeah. Perhaps another advert there. Yeah.
There's an apprenticeship for me. There's a job for you, and a potential girlfriend.
Yeah.
Partner. Fantastic. Brilliant. All right, Alex. Well,